relation to the noise, I think if I heard you correctly, you are saying it has been going on for the past probably 5 or so years, or in excess of 5 years, which means it has been an ongoing issue in Avondale. And according to you, it's not getting better, it's actually getting even worse.
That's true.
So I'll answer on behalf of the ZRP, because you talked about the closing times and the starting times, like Zumba starts in the morning, closing is 12, but it exceeds. Most of those issues, as the police, we simply enforce. But the people who actually give them the right to do that, it's not the police. You see that the noise is coming from licensed premises. If you note, there are no shebeens who are doing this. All these have got licenses. They were inspected for health by the city council and certified to be in compliance. Hence, the legal licensing board gave them the licenses to operate. So once they get the license, as the police will simply have to observe and ensure that they operate according to the license. And most of the licenses these people got are restaurant special licenses. That license authorizes them to operate any day until 23:30 hours or 11:30 in the morning, although they are given 30 minutes grace period to wind up their business until 12 midnight. So as long as they are operating until 12 midnight, as the police, it's okay. But if they exceed that, it becomes an offense whereby we are called in to arrest. Then there is this issue about noise, the noise level. We don't have, according to us, do we have an instrument to measure the noise level? We do it according to a reasonable state of a reasonable man. How we see as a reasonable noise. So when you call us, usually we go and assess, and more often than not, I think I've talked to Miss Michelle from Aberdeen.
No, not from Aberdeen.
All right, there is one from Aberdeen who normally calls me during the Sundays about this church. There is a church which also
Barbara.
Yeah, I think that's the one. Yeah, I normally talk to her. As soon as you call me, normally I respond. You guys go and check what is happening in that place. And they assess too. If the noise is excessive, more often than not, we ask them to either lower down the volume or close completely. But normally, because these places we are talking about are licensed, we don't order them to close immediately. We just ask them to lower. But probably we should move a little bit further, at least to make sure that we take them to court if they are found to be reaching the acceptable noise levels. That would be brilliant. Yeah, that's what we are here for. We are actually committed to doing that, making sure that we consider not the fines, but the option of taking them to court. But what that requires also is your input as the residents, because as the police, we are not the people who are going to stand alone in court and say we're making noise. You should be prepared to go and testify to make sure that our case comes out nice. We are with you in this, to making sure that this area is as peaceful as possible. Because if you look around, you see that most of the cases that we are troubling us, the theft from motor vehicles, the smashing of vehicles, is also happening in these places. So we are with you in this, but at times, because of the licensing, our hands are tied a little bit.
My name is Iara Mathasia, but some of you know me as Lady E. I'm your security champion. I'm the bridge between the officer in charge, the ZRP, and you guys. Some of you know me when I came door to door, mobilizing assistance and support to buy that combi that you see driving around. Some of you supported, some of you didn't. But nonetheless, I've got my broken shoes framed in a frame, and we have our car, which is working, and the crime stats are down, and we are not stopping. So I'm really sorry that you guys are experiencing what I personally experienced, and ended up selling my house and moving out of a particular area in Belgravia because of noise. We had this exact same problem, and as residents, we walked the road that you guys are walking years ago, and I think Councillor Gotora had just come into office at that time. He also wasn't sleeping because residents were phoning him at that time. The officer in charge at that time was Inspector Sengurai, and he wasn't sleeping. The Crime Liaison Committee chair at that time was Tulani Mpofu. He also wasn't sleeping, and the bane of our existence was Belgravia Sports Club. And we had a lady who was a pensioner at that time. I'm sure some of you might know her. She came knocking door to door, and we thank Inspector Sengurai, because, you know, at the end of the day, we like to blame the police for a lot of stuff, but they are handcuffed. They need the support of the community, and we found out from the police how to go about it. And from the advice that we got from the police, we managed, with the assistance of the councillor, who used to get up out of his bed at 2 a.m. to go with Renee from Chelmsford Manor to Shamwari Complex to go and get them to switch off their volumes, to manage to get Belgravia Sports Club banned. For about 4 years, gigs were banned at Belgravia Sports Club. And now, because we had moved out and others had moved out, you could now see they realized this and they started to have gigs again. So the procedure that we took is what Officer in Charge, Inspector Sengurai, is trying to explain. You need to have community support, number one. You have to be united. You need somebody who is driven, and you have to be committed about it. I applaud you residents for mobilizing yourselves and going to court. That alone was not enough. You need to get the fines from the police. Unfortunately, just phoning the officer in charge and saying, there's noise somewhere, can you attend to it, is not sufficient. You gotta have somebody who's gonna get out of bed, risk their safety, drive around, find out where that noise is, call the police and get them there. We have the vehicle. That vehicle is working. It's maintained by us as the community. Utano Motors services that car free of charge. We put fuel. I'm so happy, by the way, Total Belgravia is now giving us 20 liters every Friday. D8 Fuels is giving us 20. We don't have much fuel. Unfortunately, most of my CLC members have left Avondale due to what's happening in the area, and they've moved to the Highlands corridor. So I don't have the luxury of phoning so-and-so and saying, give me fuel. There's no one to say, here's $300 every month for fuel. So now who is going to fund this vehicle to drive around 24/7, to go around to all these venues? We are a bit pressed. So that's a conversation for another day, but I'll put it out there. So that being said, it's very important to note that once you have reported to the police, you've gone out, you've established this, the police then attend to the scene. Once they take management, they have to fine that venue. Once that venue has 3 fines, you guys have to then write a petition and a letter to the licensing, right? And you need to state the health risks. No sleep can actually kill you. You cannot be on sleeping tablets. You will have kidney damage, you will have all these things. It will affect your mental health, it will affect your mental well-being. Sleep is actually, and sound is actually used as a weapon in warfare. It's a serious thing. Okay, I'll try and see if I don't have that letter that was written by those residents in my file somewhere. And this letter, you get signatures from everybody in your neighborhood. And what you do with this letter is you CC it to your officer in charge. He's a very pivotal person in this. You then CC it to your councillor as your point person and your district officer. You CC it to licensing. You address it to licensing.
When you say licensing, you talk about liquor licensing.
Liquor licensing. These are all your very pivotal officers, okay? And you need the police because referencing those fines. Once the licensing goes back to inspector and says, look, we've received complaints about this venue. Can you tell us about this? Inspector will say, let me look at my records. And he'll say, yes, this is what I've received. They've been fined. The community is against this. And then they will review their licenses and they will terminate that. They do not give a license to make noise. They give a license to operate, not to make noise. Let's be very clear about that. And I think the Honourable Councillor here can probably speak on that later on, but this is what we discovered. There is no license to make noise. There is a license to operate. And unfortunately, with operating comes the disaster of when clients are leaving. There's the noise of them jumping in the cars, the broken bottles, the noisy radios. It's a whole big issue that happens with having these businesses in the area. And of course, at the same time, we want people to earn, but it has to be, there has to be a balance. There has to be a balance to everything. So this is what happened when Belgravia was banned, and it can happen again. And now there was a very interesting case. Sorry.
How was it reinstated?
They just realized that there was no pressure anymore, and they tried 1 or 2 times. And what actually triggered this was the Zumba that was happening at National Ballet. That was starting at 5 o'clock in the morning. And I mean, a pensioner who's hardly getting sleep, and the Zumba is starting at 5 o'clock in the morning, and it was screaming, and it was a disaster. It was just not on. But you have to be able to do the legwork. And it's amazing that the councillor has managed to pull together such a powerful convergence of the top officers here. It shows that people are committed and are listening and are willing to do something about it. And I know that we're about to embark on crime awareness campaigns. And once I take this back to my committee, I'm sure that also in our crime awareness campaigns, we'll also be able to assist the community in the outreach, in the legwork, depending on what you are willing to do. And the inspector that we have now is a listening and a very engaging officer in charge. Right now, he's allowed us to come into the station. I'm busy putting new tiles. There was just a lighter note. We had a disaster at the station. For about 3 years, they thought it was witchcraft. Every time somebody would walk into the office of the officer in charge, there were bees that would come up. And that building, it's like a local monument site, because it was donated by a retired Rhodesian officer who's actually buried at the station in front of the charge office. And we put like dark gray tiles to mark where he's buried. So we didn't understand what was going on. And it's got those old suspended floorboards. So every time somebody would walk in, bees. So it reached a stage where his predecessor actually moved out of the office for a while. And for sure, we said it was witchcraft. The guys. Until when he came, no, it was worse. It was serious. We ended up having to call the Ministry of Agriculture, and then eventually they realized that there was a hive underneath because it was a suspended ceiling floor, and there was like a meter in between. And then now, because we can't demolish it, we can only restore it. So as a community, we've reached out to key players, and we've now come to the stage where we're putting in new tiles. So people were slipping and falling at the station. Now we've got the new tiles. Yay! The big issue has been solved. So when you guys come to the station, it's now going to be top-notch, professional. We received a huge paint donation. It's going to be painted up. We received a good ceiling donation. So all these rotten boards are going to be replaced. We're putting up a nice little community kitchen there, and we're doing this. All this has happened since he's come. So we are grateful. There is progress, but we need more members, new members to come on board. So if you're interested to join, come and see me after the meeting and let's talk. But in terms of the noise, don't put your foot down. Get involved as members so that internally you can understand how these things work, and you can also effect change internally.
It's very true that the City of Harare is involved in issuance of operating licenses. And like what Lady said, that when these licenses are being issued, they're not being issued for people to make noise. They get the licenses, then they start to do certain things that are not part of the conditions of the licenses. For example, if you take 161, if you go and ask for their license, it doesn't allow them to do those live bands and all those kind of stuff. I actually went there last week. I asked it, is it you, Ms. Bergen, whom I sent a message to go and have a meeting with them last week. Because I met them, the owner there, and he referred me to his manager. He said, I don't work here with my manager whom I'm supposed to talk to. I talked to him, they were making a lot of noise. It was around past 11, I think, in the midnight, in the night. Then they lowered their volumes after that. But it's something that we need to deal with as council. And if somebody flouts the conditions of the license, there must be penalties, they must be dealt with. If they continue to do so, that business is supposed to be closed. Yes. Because there's no point of keeping it open when they are actually continuing to operate outside their conditions of operations. So we need to stop that. That's why I've been insisting that Ms. Majumba be here, so that those people must be visited. Firstly, you write them warning letters that if you continue to be a menace to residents, we are going to cancel your license.
And the point is very clear and loud to everyone that people are suffering as a result of excessive noise that is coming out from various entertainment centers that are dotted around the city. But of particular concern are the sports club. Even at our offices, that has come very often, the complaint. And if you recall, these issues have just come possibly for the last 10 years. Before that, we never used to have these issues of noise because the operators or the proprietors understood that they must abide by the law. They understood the concern of the residents. They understood that symbiotic relationship between them and the residents. Prior to this regime, where they are breaking the law willy-nilly. And it is clear, like what our officer said, that if they are making noise, they are breaking the law. And the lawbreakers must then be arrested or their goods confiscated. It's very clear. The bylaw is very clear in terms of noise. It does not give a caveat for anyone to make noise that it disturbs the peace and tranquility of the local residents. It's very clear. It is not ambiguous. It's very clear. Those that are making noise know the provisions of that bylaw. And they know they are flouting the law. They are breaking the law. They are very aware about that. But it's just a combination of arrogance and possibly a connection one way or the other to someone who is powerful than Majima. If I had arresting powers, well, I would try and exercise them some other point.